Hello, we're just waiting on some people to join. Gonna admit some people in the waiting room as well. And this is Whitney Mathews' session. If you're just joining us, I'm just admitting some people from the waiting room, and this is Whitney Mathews' session. Is Whitney here? Okay, I'm sure she'll be here in a few moments. All right, just give us a few moments. We'll get started shortly. Okay, here is Whitney joining in now. And then we will get the presentation started. Hello, Whitney.
Are you calling?
Yes, I am. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
So you are DWD's intern?
I am, yes.
Nice, nice. How do you like it?
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been about a month, so
okay.
It's going by pretty fast, yeah.
Girlfriend, let me tell you something you're gonna learn in JAG. Everything goes fast.
Yeah.
Bree, I see you laughing, but you know that's right. Everything goes fast.
And you're still learning. Like, I mean, you know, I've been around a long time and I'm still learning stuff all the time.
Yep, all the time. I mean, I feel like with any program that is associated with the Department of Education, be in for a ride because it's always going to be changing and it's always going to be evolving.
Whitney, would you like me to share my screen or would you like to do that?
If it's okay with you, I would like to go ahead and share mine.
Yeah, of course. Let me make sure I can. I'll just make you the host if that works.
Perfect.
Okay. You should be able to now.
Okay. Maybe. There we go. There we go. Can everybody see this okay?
Sure can.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So for those of you that do not know me, my name is Whitney Mathews, and I am a former JAG specialist for JAG Indiana. I was a JAG specialist for Madison Consolidated High School for 8 years roughly. And then now this is my 9th year at Madison, and I am their CUP Enterprise Coordinator, which is kind of a quirky term because not a lot of people understand exactly what a enterprise coordinator does. But essentially, I have a lot of different roles that I fulfill in the school school. I do work with K through 12 and K-14. We do partner up pretty heavily with Ivy Tech. So I work in and out of the building, working with partnerships locally, growing industry here at the school. So my role as being a JAG specialist, I feel like really kind of helped me prepare for what I do now, because a lot of what I do now as being an enterprise coordinator are the things that I learned while being in JAG. So that's kind of my little spiel about myself and my background. So some things that we're going to talk about today are how to structure pathways, JAG-ifying pathways, the bucket system of pathways, how JAG aligns with pathways, and pathways resources, which I'm going to give all to all of you guys today. So I did share that out with Colleen. I put this presentation and then a couple different other documents in a Google Drive folder, and I did give it full access. So if you don't have access to it, when you do receive it, just go ahead and request access, but you should have viewer mode for everything. And I have embedded tons of links to different resources all through the Department of Education, and then of course DWD as well, because that's kind of how I just built my resources into structuralizing and building up JAG, and then utilizing us in pathways at Madison. So my kind of backstory on where I started with really getting JAG involved with building pathways at Madison. I actually took an externship through the Department of Ed and FLEC Education. And some things that I kind of worked on exploring and learning more about were the 3 E's, and then how that kind of pipelines into pathways. So the 3 things that I have found that we focus on as far as kids when they exit out of high school is they're either going straight into the workforce, which is your employment, their enrollment, which they're going to go into some sort of post-secondary training institution, whatever it may be, whether it's some sort of trade or it's a 2-year, 4-year, whatever their plan is, they're enrolling into furthering their education. And then the 3rd E would be enlistment. So that's enlisting in any branch of the military. And really, if you kind of look at the way that the pathways system is structured, as far as the 3 different buckets, it does really set up the students to exit into one of these forms. So that's kind of what I decided to do when I was building up our pathway system at Madison, and how JAG aligns with it. I really wanted to focus on the 3 E's of JAG. And then I kind of wanted to sit back and figure out, okay, so we do all of this. How can this align with this, and create that pipeline for what I was providing for my students into getting that pathway, which some of them may need it, of course, if you have to utilize it for graduation requirements. So this is actually a document that I created. What I essentially did was just take the 3 different boxes and then I broke them down. So obviously they have to do box 1, complete high school diploma. So whatever track that they're on. Now, if they are on track to get academic honors, then they're immediately going to check off on box 3 as well, because that's going to consider them to be post-secondary ready. So that's perfect. They're kind of just checking off 2 with 1. But for other students that are just graduating with a core 40, they have to focus more so on getting the box 2 done and then getting the box 3 done as well. So what I did when I was creating this document is I was essentially just kind of figuring out, okay, what do we do in JAG? How can I align those 3 E's of JAG into pathways? So if you look over here for box 2, what I tried to do, instead of just having it be basic, project-based learning, work-based learning, service-based learning, I tried to include all of the design principles of it. So that way, especially new specialists, as they were coming in and they weren't really understanding the different forms of box 2, they would have a little bit extra help for them to understand exactly what they needed to do to qualify for project-based learning. You can't just do a project and say, okay, well, I've done it. It needs to hit certain qualifying benchmarks to be considered to be authentic project-based learning. Work-based learning as well. They can't just go and work for an hour. There's an entire structure that's set up that they have to work so many hours. They have to write a reflection on it. So it's more than just kind of going into a job, working for a day, and that's it. There has to be some form of skill that's actually learned, well, applied and learned. So what I tried to do was take what our requirements were in JAG and kind of align it. I can't see this well, I'm sorry. Try to kind of align it with what all of the design principles were. So resume and cover letter in Indiana Career Connect. Everything that I have put into this document is all accessible for you guys through what we have aligned as far as DWD and the Indiana Department of Education as to how JAG qualifies. So this is why this is a JAG-ify pathways document. So you can utilize this document, make a copy of it, use it. This has the full form of what all qualifies in each of the boxes. Same for box 3 for post-secondary readiness, the different competencies. What I did was I actually took down the full structure of the post-secondary readiness benchmarks that they could hit. And what I did was just kind of align them into each of the enrollment, enlistment, and employment. So for instance, if a student is on track for academic honors, obviously they're probably on an enrollment path because they've already hit those benchmarks to prove they're probably going on to some form of post-secondary. Same with ACT and SAT, they're already hitting those qualifying benchmarks. Now, could they go into the workforce? Absolutely, but there is a good chance that they are going to be either dually enrolled into some sort of post-secondary and working or just full-time student. Enlistment, you have the ASVAB score, and of course you have the AP. If they can hit those benchmarks and they're already testing at a 31 or higher to do pre-qualifying for military, they're probably on a track for enlistment. Content a lot at Madison. CTE, moving from Perkins over to next level program of study, we have found that a lot of our students are really kind of utilizing the CTE concentrator to get them through, excuse me, on box 3. I would ask you guys if you had any questions, but I can't see anybody. It's just kind of me talking to my slides. So I'll pause real quick. Doesn't anyone have any questions about anything I've touched base on so far? Nope. Okay, perfect. So we're going to go on to the buckets now. So what we're going to do is just kind of review the buckets, bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3, the resources I used, and then the resources that you can use to learn more about those buckets, and then how you can utilize those in your everyday classroom with JAG, or just selling JAG into the pathways programs that you have at your high school. So as far as graduation, something I want to show you guys right here. I've embedded all these links for you guys to check out when you want to use this as a resource, when you start kind of delving into building your own pathways pipeline at your school. If you are ever curious as to what goes into bucket 1, there's your core 40 right here. This is something that I actually became very familiar with. And the reason I did is because the more I know about what my students needed to graduate, the more I can help them make sure that they are checking off those classes they need to do, taking certain tests, getting certain scores on tests. Become super familiar with this, and always look at the updated version because it changes very frequently. I did include a link to the Spanish version of the same document that I just showed you. This is just kind of an overview right here of the Indiana General High School Diploma. This talks about breaking down the different classes, how many credits they need for these courses, so on and so forth. And this right here is what I want to show you. So this is something that I do try to explain to my students when I was teaching. I wanted them to understand what they mapped out for themselves, and by achieving certain accolades, by getting certain diploma types, how they can move in certain directions. So I did use this flow chart, but just really just kind of to explain to them, you know, if you're going on this route, this is where you go, and just kind of how it flows. And I just explained it to them. So really for box 1, learn whatever the graduation requirements are up to date. Make sure that you have something active with your counselors at your high school. Make sure if they have a live document or some kind of PDF that they share out with the students, a paper version even, you have a copy of that and you have the latest copy of it. Your guidance counselors will never mind sharing that stuff out with you. And the reason they won't is because the more that you can advocate and help them do their jobs to keep these students on track, they're going to be more than willing to give you the resources. You just have to ask for them. So keep in mind, as far as box 1, stay on track with whatever the new graduation requirements are, what the requirements are for Core 40, what your school offers, and then what all of those classes are considered to go into each of the different benchmarks that the students have to hit in the different categories. So bucket 2, employability skills. This is something that I actually love that Indiana has done as far as utilizing this into pathways, because project-based learning, service-based learning, work-based learning, all of that aligns with JAG. So this part is very simple for you guys as far as trying to achieve in the classroom. We have tons of resources on project-based learning, which I'm going to show you. Service-based learning, you have to hit so many service hours your program does, your students do. So that should be easy for you guys to hit. Work-based learning, we should be working with our students regularly on creating work-based learning opportunities for them, whether that's an internship, a job shadow, on-the-job training, whatever it may be. So if we're talking about aligning with project-based learning, this is an old image from the Buck Institute of Education, which is now PBL Works. That link right here, I have actually included for you guys, and I did include the JAG PBL Facebook link and the link to jag.org, our PBL structure that they have built, because it has tons of resources, especially the jag.org PBL that has a lot of PBLs that have been written nationwide, not just statewide. So when I was trying to develop PBL, especially ones that I could utilize for pathways, I really used those 3 links right there the most, because they're the ones that gave me the information that I needed to do the JAG side of pathways. So if you are utilizing project-based learning, just make sure that you are actually designing something, using something that hits all the elements that the students are supposed to learn. And I'm also going to show you a form that I created that you can use to verify that with your students, and you can attach all those PBLs to it as verification. Service-based learning, like I mentioned before, everybody should be doing service-based. We have to hit so many hours in JAG as a program per student. So when they're doing service-based activities, make sure that whatever it is, it's meaningful service. It's linked to some part of your curriculum, some part of the competencies that you teach. Always make sure that you collect a reflection on it, because that is essentially your proof of them completing the service, but also reflecting and learning whatever skill that you were trying to demonstrate and have them master when they were doing this. Also, of course, diversity, youth voices, partnerships, progress monitoring. You know, if you're doing service-based activities with the kids, make sure that you do a little bit of progress monitoring just to kind of see how they're developing as you go. Work-based experience, we did talk about that. I found that work-based learning is something that a lot of schools utilize, a lot of JAG programs probably utilize, because a lot of students have jobs now, and they can use one of their paychecks as a verification if they have been working at a place for X amount of time and hours. So work-based learning has really kind of evolved into a box to check off for them. But if they are doing something where they're not getting paid and they don't have the verification, these are just some design principles and reminders, which are what I put into that JAG-ifying pathways document that you guys will get. Make sure that whatever the work-based learning partnership and experience is, make sure that the agreement that you have between the employer, the student, it's very clearly established, and then follow through. Also, try to make sure that it's an authentic work experience. Kids will get into and they will be way more prone to follow through with whatever work-based experience you want to put them through if it's something meaningful towards what they want to do. If they're interested in pursuing a career in engineering and you want them to go clean kennels, they're probably not going to be as applicable to be jazzed to show up every day. But if you can get them in with maybe a design company and they can learn more about that computer integrated manufacturing software that they'd be using, they're going to probably follow through with it. So that's where that authentic work experience comes into play. And I have a rule of thumb. I will not put a student through a work experience or any kind of work-based partnership with an employer that's not authentic and meaningful for them. And the reason I'm not going to do that is because I want to make sure that my partnership is not destroyed by maybe a lack of effort or poor work experience on the student's part because they didn't really want to be there. So creating the authentic part is really super important. Structured learning components of, what you want them to achieve, make sure that that is all communicated pretty thoroughly with the student and the employer or the partner, whoever it is that you're doing the agreement with. And then of course, assessing the recognition of skills. What did they learn? Have an evaluation, have the employer write an evaluation on them. And then we have bucket 3, so post-secondary readiness. So students obviously must complete one of these things. So they have to have either an honors diploma, hit a benchmark score, an ACT, SAT, and ASVAB. They can have an industry recognized certification, apprenticeship, a CTE coordinator or concentrator, which is what I was discussing earlier when I was talking about how Madison, the school that I work with, utilizes the CTE concentrators. That is going to be essentially somewhat easier for them to achieve, especially if they are going to be an E of employment student, that they are going to be probably graduating and going into the workforce. That CTE concentrator is probably going to direct them into what field they're going to be going into, and also completing that. If you have good CTE programs at your school, you're probably aligning the students up with earning a local industry recognized certification as well. So AP, if they earn so many different AP, IB, dual credit courses, and then locally created pathways, which locally created pathways, there are not as many as what I would like for them to be. But anytime anybody wants to write an LCP, they are more than welcome to it. And that can all be processed through the Indiana Department of Education. So if you have something that maybe your school really focuses heavily and thrives in an area of career and technical education, and it's not something that's offered as far as an industry recognized pathway, you can apply and write your own. So this is just kind of an overview of post-secondary readiness competencies. So what it means, obviously honors diploma, they have to meet those requirements and earn either the academic or technical. ACT, these are just the benchmark scores that the pathways document suggests that they have to get in order to utilize it. SAT as well. ASVAB, if you do not have a partnership already built with some branch of the military, please look into doing that. The military does allot so much money for educational resources and partnerships with educational providers. I have found, and this is just us through Madison, but I have found that we have a great partnership with the National Guard. And we would actually like to grow that partnership with more different branches to offer just more opportunities and whatnot with the students. But if you do not have already a working partnership with one of your recruiters from one of the branches of the military, work on doing that. Honestly, these recruiters, they are wanting these kids to pass. They are wanting them to potentially look into utilizing the military as, you know, a future option for them, career, educational support system for them. They will bend over backwards to help you, especially if you get the right recruiter. And it could be with any of the branches. You just really have to see what branches kind of offer the most as far as their recruiters go. But my best suggestion for ASVAB, find that partnership, find where you can fit in with a great recruiter, and then work on building that. You guys can host boot camps, which we do at Madison. Boot camps, the recruiters and some of the staff will come in. They'll go over a lot of the English and the math, the tough stuff that's on ASVAB. They will go over remedial stuff with them. We'll have tons of students come in, and they just get kind of a quick study session ahead of time before they go in and they take the ASVAB. And essentially it's a win-win for both, because that's free tutoring to get these kids to potentially, you know, not only pass a benchmark, but also consider a different option for their future, and the recruiters get that face-to-face time with their students as well. The state and industry recognized credentials or certifications. I've provided links that are going to give you guys all access to that, and you guys can look at it, view it, use it, save it, however you guys want to use it. So this is the career and technical education concentrator. Like I said, this is what we use at Madison the most, really. We have tons of students in CTE because we have a really great large CTE program at Madison. If you have the opportunity to, something that I think has helped us thrive in CTE, because I coordinate with our CTE programs as well, is Standards for Success Pathways. And I'm not even trying to put in a plug to them right now. I know I essentially just did, but I'm really not. It's a great data system to utilize to track pathways. And if your school is really getting into trying to go paperless, I'm telling you, Standards for Success Pathways is awesome to use. And we've even had some bumps as far as Skyward goes, and transferring over and data mining and pulling in information and sending out information. But I will say that they have been great to work with. And if you can get the system up and utilized, it will really help your CTE programs thrive. Post-secondary readiness, I'm not going to go over that. We have about a half an hour and we're almost through. So I'd like to kind of give a little bit of time into just questions and answers, you know, anything that maybe you guys would like to know. Locally created pathways, I did include that link, and that's also embedded in this as well. So when you guys pull this up, all of these blue right here, all links for you guys to use. This will show you what are Indiana LCPs and then who actually qualifies. So that'll give you all the updated ones if you wanted to use a locally created pathway at your school. And then there's just some guidance resources for you, and of course, your guidance counselors at your school. In this slide right here, I did embed the new graduation requirements from 2023 on. This is actually the document. If you do not have this document, that is completely fine. This is all embedded into this, and you guys will have this after this session today. But this illustrates how JAG is pipelined into pathways. So something that I did struggle with was trying to get everybody on the same page as how JAG is utilized. No, we're not a box 3. JAG is a box 2, but it's not just through service-based learning, and it's not just through work-based learning. It's through all of these things over here on the right-hand side. So it is through them earning these different accolades through completing, whether it's curriculum, excuse me, or if it's them competing at CDC and winning first place, whatever it may be. All of these are here for you guys. Utilize this, use this, learn this, print this out, put this up in your room, put it in a binder somewhere, and memorize it, because this right here is the document that you need to be sharing out and utilizing and giving out to your counselors, because this highlights every way that JAG pipelines into graduation pathways. And it's a full guidance list for them. So it's not just for you guys, it's completely for them as well. Now, if you are utilizing graduation pathways, then my school would let me sign off as an instructor to obviously their supervisor, I guess it would have been, if they would have completed one of these things. I printed out a copy, printed out my verification form that you guys can use if you would like, had the students write off, do their reflection, stapled it, and that was my verification. Keep this, like I said, use it, because in case there ever were to be an audit, you want to make sure that you have what you used, where the guidance came from, and then the proof of the completion. These actually are the documents that I was talking about, so I'll go ahead and I'll open those up for you guys right now. This is actually just the graduation pathway. It's the prep guide that our former senior counselor and I worked on and put together. This is how I took it and I utilized it, and I kind of made it more directive towards JAG, which was in the previous slide towards the beginning of the session. And this is all for you guys. So you guys can take that, use that. If you want to make a copy, modify it however you would like. And this is what I used when our students were completing through maybe getting work-based learning or getting one of those, earning one of those accolades through JAG. I would always take this, have them fill this out, attach all my documentation, and then after that, kept copies of it. Now, this is one I'm just going to show you guys because this is less explanatory. However, if you do have students that are just utilizing graduation pathways and they're doing project-based, service-based, or work-based through JAG, this is a little bit less detailed and less lengthy. So you can go ahead and just have them check off on one of the boxes, make sure that you have obviously their verification signature, which is down below right there, and then of course whatever their reflection of their experience is. And then I just went ahead and I put a couple resources in there for you guys. So this is the IDOE resources for graduation pathways. This right here, I became very, very familiar with. The site has changed a little bit since the last time that I did this presentation, but this right here is going to be kind of your golden guide to what you want to use in learning more about pathways. Okay. So what I did was just kind of learn more about all of these different structures of graduation pathways, utilize the resources that they gave me, and then just found where our niche was through JAG at Madison. And how we could create that pipeline for us. This also I included for you guys. I feel like this is awesome, especially if you're a middle school specialist or if you are wanting to help your junior high or middle school instructors learn more about pathways and how they can set their students up for pathways. This right here is a full document over all the resources for building middle school, building up your pathway system and supporting it in middle school. This right here, I'm going to go ahead and expand that. So this is actually the newest Indiana graduation pathways infographic that has been released. I really like this. If you kind of notice, a lot of the information that I put into the documents that we use at Madison has all kind of been broken down the very same way that IDOE uses it and puts it out for everyone to kind of understand and be structured a little bit more easier to read and understand. And that is it. Go ahead and stop sharing. Well, does anybody have any questions about anything that I talked about? Because I really did that entire presentation to my slides and I saw nobody's faces. So I have no idea if anybody has questions, but I'm 100% ready to answer and help you guys. However, even if it's just about how I got started, just kind of building the pathways system at Madison.
I have a question.
Sure.
I teach at an alternative school, and I'm new JAG specialist. And when I came, they told me JAG would only be used for extra credits, if they needed some extra credits. And I said, well, I looked at the pathways and I said, but we do all this. And they said, oh, but there's no standards with JAG. We don't know that you're actually doing that. And they've continuously refused to use anything we do for their graduation pathway, except as elective credits.
Okay.
And one of the things that came across is they said there's no documentation of how many hours of work they would be doing for a resume or.
Sure there is. You have a model service.
Right. But I'm trying to figure out, I need a way of explaining this to them, because they said, no, the state, I had to show them on the state Department of Ed, yes, JAG is there. And they were like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. And so.
I see Rhonda, I'm in the same boat with you. I started this okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried showing them the document that I showed you? The
yes.
JAG, the Indiana Pathway Guidance?
Yes.
That was actually provided by DWD?
Yes, I have. And they said, they've told me again, it's the guidance counselor who says there is no specific guidelines he believes that says exactly what JAG is supposed to do and how it can be used.
Okay.
And the high school in the district doesn't use JAG for this way either. They use it for elective credits only.
Sure.
And so I'm like looking at what you're talking about, verification forms and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, well, maybe if I can present this to them.
Sure. Yes.
Maybe they'll take that.
I'm so sorry. I've been fighting allergies and sinuses.
Oh, that's okay. I'm doing the same.
So actually, I did struggle at first, especially getting everyone to understand, but I was very firm with my presence and them understanding that I was not going to take no for an answer. That actually was why I kind of took it upon myself to learn more about this and create these documents and to use these documents and promote them. Because once I think they kind of saw everything that I had put together, they trusted my word a little bit more. But as far as them not wanting to utilize, I mean, I would never tell you to go above someone's head, but
well, can't go above the principal,
Would I? Yep. Yes, you can.
Oh yeah. Well, actually,
superintendent, you have the school board.
Yeah, I've honestly, I actually have to say, I think it's the district doesn't understand, because I've talked to that person too.
So maybe a good thing for you to do, which is what I actually did. Maybe a good thing for you to do is to email your superintendent's administrative assistant and ask that you be put on the agenda to discuss JAG and how you can utilize JAG into graduation pathways. And you take all this documentation that I gave you, and you can even take this presentation and you can present it in front of the board.
Okay.
Which I'm sure your building level administrators will be there, and they will get to hear it all as well. Because sometimes people fear what they don't know. And if they think that if they don't see proof in the pudding, then they just think it doesn't exist. So sometimes it is going a little bit above and beyond. And is it tedious? Yes, it is. And is it unfortunate that we have to do this? Yes, it is. However, there are things that I've had to do as well. I did struggle trying to get everybody on the same page. I feel like that's the most teamwork focused phrase I could use. Just get everybody on the same page. but the more my presence was known and the more I kept pushing and the more that I kept providing, I feel like everybody started kind of becoming more receptive to wanting to work with me, and then of course understanding
Okay.
what it is and what we do and how we do it.
In what school district did you work with? It was Madison, you said?
Yeah, I work for Madison Consolidated High School. And I'm still there. I was a JAG teacher there for 8 years. This is my 9th year there. I just finished my 9th year, going into my decade year.
Okay. Well, I can also tell them that, yes, other schools in the state of Indiana, because they say no one, yes, they're convinced no one uses it.
Yep. And if they wanted to contact our building level principal, our head guidance counselor, our superintendent, any of our board members, any one of those people, they can all contest to the work that we do and how JAG aligns with it and everything that I just told you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Hope has a question. Will you share the graduation pathways guidance document? Is that in the Google Drive link?
Yes. So if you want to, Colleen, you can go ahead and you can take that link and post it in the comments.
I did share that earlier because the slides weren't loading, but I just sent it again. So it should be in there for you, Hope.
Okay. Yeah, use those. Make copies of those and use those however you want to. Does anybody else have any questions? Region 12, they partnered up with National Guard. Hope, I will tell you that the National Guard is who we have our strongest partnership with.
Yeah, we're really excited about what we have going on. Our Bethel and Employee Indy made that connection for us, and they've already supported us and our senior send-off that we had and providing food, and we're gonna do some trainings with them. And you know, he talked a lot about how they'll come out and just be a presence at the school, go on field trips if they need to, not in their military, you know, their uniform, but they're just that presence there. So I'm really excited about working with them and building that partnership.
Something else that they really are great at and they love to do as well is come in and be guest speakers. Judges for CDC, they're great with resume writing, with interviewing. A lot of them are, because I mean, they're recruiters. That's kind of what, you know. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to say all recruiters are. If there's any recruiters on here, I don't mean that in a harmful way, but if you can find the right ones, yes, that thrive in those areas, yeah, they're great to utilize for that.
Yeah. Hey, I just opened up that link also with the pathway. I see the pathway verification doc, the pathway prep guide, and then the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But
all the links are in the PowerPoint.
Now the graduation pathways guidance, the link there just took me to the DOE page. Maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Which one was it?
It was on slide 15. And it's got the JAG Indiana on there, and then
here, we'll do this.
Yeah, this stuff is really, really helpful.
Good, I'm glad.
Because I was just having a discussion with with one of our schools.
It is right here. I'm hoping everybody's on here because copy. What you could have done, Hope, was go to, pull up the comment section here. Get this chat, paste this in here. If you go to the
PowerPoint.
No, the link to, I just went ahead and posted the link to it, to the Indiana graduation pathways. If you go to the main page that I showed you guys for Indiana graduation pathways and how it has those steps, that updated form is in that as well.
Okay.
It's under box 2. Yep. So if you are going to go just open up graduation requirements 2, and then scroll down to JAG Indiana Grad Pathways Guidance, and then that's right there.
Thank you.
That has that updated one on there as well. So sorry, I didn't know that link.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any questions? I feel like I zoomed through that, but I kind of was scared starting a little bit later. I didn't want to run over. Yeah, honestly, getting your schools to buy in persistency is key. Also, start inviting them to what you do. I would highlight the silliest stuff sometimes. Like sometimes if we were doing Mental Health Monday and we were just doing meditating or yoga, I invited them. Because if they don't know that you're doing it, you're not doing it, right? If it wasn't on Facebook, it never happened. So the more that you expose what you do and the more you share with everybody what you do, the more easier the conversation is going to be for them to be more open to accept, hey, yes, we do count. We are more than just an elective pickup class. We do all those things. In fact, we align a lot of what we want the kids to accomplish and what they will have accomplished by the time they've gotten through JAG are setting them up for also earning the governor's workforce, the GWC, governor's workforce ethics certificate. So that's another plug that you can throw in there, is how JAG kind of aligns with that.
Whitney, do you mind making me the host again?
Sure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, Darren is going to be in this. I see him already here. He's going to be in this room next at 3 p.m. So you can either stick around or leave the room and come back. But thank you so much, Whitney, for your information. And this will be recorded as well. And the drive will be sent out or posted on the JAG Genius. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.